Seemingly we're live. I'm going to make sure because it keeps on saying waiting for Swissbeatbox to publish. But you might already be hearing my voice and I might already be saying this. And we're going to check right now one more time. Come on.
This sounds like Hobbit. Is it Hobbit?
Ooh, almost. It's the good friend Sorrow. Wait, no. MB14.
Uh-oh.
MB14. I had a quick second. Oh, there we go. It seems like we are live now. That's what I like to see. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for tuning on in right here, live and direct. Live and direct. I still say that too many times every time I talk online. But Swissbeatbox, Beyond the Beats. We're on episode 44. And hello to everybody that's tuned in. I see already Mr. Dreams, Nicholas, Luh, and some other people have tuned in saying, Ish, coming at you live and direct. So everybody's tuned in to go and get into this interview. I hope you guys have stayed safe, having fun, making the best time that you possibly can with the time that you have. Everybody's tuned on in. Once again, I'm your boy Scott Jackson, hosting on this. And yeah, episode 44 again. Makes me quite happy. And I like to do introductions, so we'll start off with an introduction. I'm very excited because throughout this time that I was working on this one and getting to look up some of this fine performer's resume, it's a long list and very accomplished, so I'm very excited to go and actually talk to you about your career so far. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you, first of all, Helen from the UK, two-time female UK beatbox champion, two-time tag team champion, reppin' Bird, reppin' Flash. We have Gracious B, aka Miss Grace Savage.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, what up?
Yeah, good. You've already snuck a couple of cheeky things into that introduction, which make me nervous. How? How have you got that already?
We got time. This is lockdown. Scotty got time to go and find stuff out.
Scotty got time.
That's correct. But how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I've got my cider because it's a Tuesday evening. I'm in my spare room / studio. It's pretty miserable and grey in England, as always.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, but we're coming to the end of lockdown, so there is hope in the air. The daffodils are rising. Life is good. I cannot complain.
That's good. I'm happy to have you on here, and I'm excited to talk, because again, from being an actress to doing sound direction to performing all over the world, performing solo shows and being part of collectives and all sorts of interesting things and putting out so much good music. That's another thing I was very happy to listen to your repertoire and look through it all and listen to it. So I appreciate it so far, and I'm excited to go and share with people your story of how you got into beatboxing, what you're going to be pursuing with it. So I'm just excited to go and talk to you. It's good to see your face, and another week of people around the world get to say hello to some Canadian on Swissbeatbox.
You're more than just some Canadian.
Hey now.
You're Scott Jackson. Come on.
Now. Coming at you, live and direct, once again. So everybody, once again, if you have questions, I want you to go and put them in the chat. I want you to go and write any questions that you have for Miss Grace. She's going to be ask some questions at the end of this from you guys, and our boy Hydefield. Big shout out to Hydefield, Ilya, for running the stream once again. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we start this off, I like to go and start off nowadays by starting this thing off correct. Would you grace us with a beatbox to go and start the show off on a good note?
Sure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go and find out what's happening beyond the beats, right here with Grace Savage. You already know what to do. If you're sitting at home, I say the 3, y'all say the 2 and the 1. Grace, show them what's up in 3.
Fall into the floor. Fall into the floor. Your true colors. Can't fool me no more. Medusa. Fall into the floor. Jag brukar slös Purple mina pop med puss Guess I should have known. Look in your eyes could turn me into stone. I'm not petrified, venom on your tongue darkens your smile, but I'm not gonna run. Medusa. Falling to the flop. Your brew slurs. Painful in a pop. My pills up. Falling to the flop. Falling to the flop. Falling to the flop. Medusa. Guess I should have known. No.
Yeah. Come on the show. You guys come correct if you're going to come on the show. Right there, doing a little of your, believe some of Medusa coming out reading live and direct there as well off your original EP, self-titled.
Exactly.
Back
Yes,
from
exactly
2017.
Okay, yeah, came out 4 years ago now. I can't believe it. Time flies way too fast.
It is true, but in that time, you have done a lot. And you got to make the most of the time that you have. So let's have a good time together. Come on.
Yes.
I also try to go and say, again, people are blowing up the chat. They're feeling it. We have people from all over the world tuned in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, leave likes, comments, all that other stuff. But I usually also try to find, to start off the show, a few different quotes that I found from people. And back in 2014, when you're talking about your show, The Blind with Guardian, you said, what I hope audiences take away from the show is a heightened awareness of the sounds we are all constantly hearing in the world. And as cheesy as it sounds, that they have a voice and it matters, even if they don't think it does. Well spoken back in 2014 about your solo show that you were doing. And I'm very happy to go and have you on again because it's just interesting how much you've done, not only in the beatbox world, but across with theater shows, your music, and most recently something that came out with Her and Her, the short film that came out. We'll talk about that later, but you've done like a full true artistry, you know, like it's not just, you're not just focused just on, okay, beatboxing. How can I go and expand that and make it into different things and try all these different opportunities? So I found it really interesting that you've been able to do that. And to start off with your beatboxing career, from what I understand, you grew up in a smaller little town, smallish town in Devon, and you saw at 14 Rozelle at the Lemon Grove in Exeter.
Yes.
So you see Rozelle, you hear the classic "If Your Mother Only Knew," and it blows your mind like it did everybody's, and you're just like, I wanted to go and try to do that. And conveniently, you found that people in your little town of Crediton were already beatboxing, and they were part of humanbeatbox.com, but it was Bellatrix, champion of the world, who started working with you, and you started figuring out different sounds and practicing and pursuing beatboxing. So I was going to say, what was it about specifically beatboxing that really grabbed your attention at the beginning, aside from Rozelle and aside from maybe hearing other people do it a little bit? What was it that, because you said you'd mimic sounds before as a kid, but what was it that maybe allowed you to go and think, I could go and pursue this as a passion, something that you really wanted to get behind?
I think, yeah, I was always quite a strange child. I grew up with two older brothers, but I was the youngest, and I often spent a lot of time on my own in my own imaginary world. Anyway, so creating imitating the sounds of, yeah, like doors creaking or kettles boiling or accents. I was constantly doing people's accents. So when I was introduced to beatboxing, and I loved hip hop as well. So that sort of married my two things I was doing naturally anyway, which was imitating things and loving and hip hop. And beatboxing was like my two dream things combined. So I picked it up quite naturally, I think. And it's great at that age to feel good at something when you're searching for things. You're trying on different outfits, different masks, different identities. And I went through them all. You know, I did the whole corn hoodies, painting my fingernails black. I'm going to be a skate. Then there was Avril Lavigne, and I was going to be a skater girl and do all that. Went slightly more like semi-gothic. I played rugby. I played cricket. I was going to be like the sports jock at one point. I wanted to do everything. And then I found beatboxing, and something just clicked. I call it the beatbox bug. And all the beatboxers out there know what it is. You start, and when I teach beatboxing, some people pick it up and they have a go and they go, yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of all right with it. And they can just get on with their day. You can tell when you're teaching someone and it clicks and they're like, something goes in their brain. This is amazing. This feels amazing to do. This feels like I'm connecting with a deeper part of myself. I'm making people happy while I'm doing it. It's like it's resonating an energy out of me. So all those things combined just, yeah, made me want to beatbox.
And I'm glad that you did, because again, what you brought to it is, we'll get into it more, but it's just like you start beatboxing, and it's an interesting thing to me as well, because a lot of people, when they start beatboxing, don't necessarily have other people to beatbox with. A lot of people will see it, and especially in the generations nowadays, obviously during lockdown as well, where you're kind of stuck at home and you might see a video of it and you're like, oh, that's neat. And you start practicing and start going down the rabbit hole of YouTube. But to go and have in your small town already an established, there are a few beatboxers to go and play with ideas and exchange, and have that building opportunity. I think early on, that's something that's so important, because it gives you another idea of how someone else's mouth is going to sound too, because my kick's different than your kick, your snare is different than my snare. So that idea is maybe that you're not doing a wrong sound. It's okay to have a different sound, because it's not wrong. It's your sound. If you understand.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that I grew up before YouTube was really a thing. I think I really got into YouTube when I was sort of about 18, but when I started beatboxing around 14, 15, 16, that wasn't a thing. So I always think, if I didn't grow up in Crediton, in that small town in Devon, and I didn't go to school with Bellatrix, and she wasn't hanging out with these older guys that were beatboxers, I wouldn't have. It's like that sliding doors thing. What the hell would my life be? The reason I now am a professional beatboxing artist person is because in this tiny town there happened to be some beatboxers, and then that sort of fed down and dripped down to me learning how to do it. So it's just like the geography, the timing and the geography of that in 2000 and whatever it was, 2003. I just find that kind of mind blowing. Like, imagine I was just born 5 minutes later in another part of the world. I wouldn't be a beatboxer. Yeah, and the plan was never to be a professional beatboxer. It was just, and in fact, it wasn't a viable thing when I was growing up to be a professional beatboxer. There were guys that beatboxed, but I don't think there was such a thing as a professional career in beatboxing. So it was the pure joy of just sharing sounds with other people. Obviously, there was then humanbeatbox.com, which I found and started geeking out on tutorials. But in the very beginning, it's how beatboxing should be, like on the streets. Although Devon really doesn't make you think of the streets, because it's like pure countryside and farmers. But I love the rawness of that environment that I learned from.
And when you started beatboxing too, again, all these things are just from interviews that I've been finding. But you said that you go to theater school at age 8, and you start going to theater school, and you have your grade 1 in piano, grade 5 in some singing classes.
Grade 1. Yeah.
And you have a few guitar lessons and stuff. But you had some musical, some very, very slight musical training. And do you find that when you were having that musical training, would it help you in future, like to go and pursue not only beatboxing, but obviously music outside of that? And have you since kind of re-upped on music training or music theory? Because I find that a lot of people that I've talked to on the show, myself included, a lot of people don't read music. but they have a natural ear for it or have basic understandings, you know? So is music theory something that you know? And also, do you think that that's shaped the way you've become an artist?
I think that it shaped the way I become an artist because it's something I don't know. I don't come from a musical family at all. I come from like a sporting family. My brother's a bricklayer and the other one works in a petrol station. My dad works in sales. Like I didn't grow up in a particularly musical environment. Um, but that's what I love about beatboxing is that you don't need, sometimes that can be a bit alienating, I think, in wanting to become a musician. You go, oh, well, I don't know what a D minor sus4 piano chord is, and I can't do my intervals or all the scales and all this stuff. And the rigidness also of practicing instruments can be a bit off-putting. But beatboxing is like you just need a voice, some natural musical talent, a lot of passion, and some creative ideas. And you can be great at it and you can go really far. And I think the more you do it, the more you hone those skills, the more you listen to music, the more that seeps into your brain. And I think the only reason I have quite natural musical ability is because I listened to so much music. I never really actively pursued music theory, except for my grade 1 piano.
And it's again though, I find it's a double-edged sword though, because then I hear people like Gene, or Chris, you know, Gene and Chris Lee's, they were just on the show a little while ago, and I knew this about them before just from talking to them. But you know, Gene went to like Berkeley to go and study music, and Chris is a music teacher, so they have all these like just such an understanding on the technical side of things as well. So it's kind of some people have that possibility of, you know, not being constricted by, I guess, the you know, you have to conform to being doing this, and then you have to do this, and then you have to go and put these things together. That's how you make sounds or songs. But a beatboxer can go and take it any which way they would like. So it is interesting to go and see how certain people have that musical background and practicing, but then also other people just naturally can figure it out or feel comfortable making something, and you can still sound really powerful and connect with your audience just because, as you said, you might have a good ear for music.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely great to if you get to a point where you start to plateau, you start to feel a bit stagnant, or you're not going any further, definitely, you know, look into music theory, start studying drum patterns. Broadening your musical knowledge is an amazing thing. You can do at any point in your career. I just think it's important to let people know it's not vital to start beatboxing, but I would recommend expanding that knowledge to anyone because what a wonderful world music theory is, and like you can geek out to it on as an intense level as you want to. You can, like, you know, just work out a few chords, or you can go really far into like circle of fifths. I feel like I've just made that up. I think that's something, circle of fifths.
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that from some guitar lesson I had once. I think that's when I switched off though. As long as you find it entertaining and interesting still, it should never be about, you know, sitting down and having to practice because that's what you're supposed to do. You've got to keep it creative and fun.
100%. That's something I've been finding too myself and a lot of people I've talked to during this time when maybe you don't have, except for online shows, it's hard to keep up practice or try to keep yourself motivated, especially during these times when there's no shows to practice for or festivals to practice for, or, you know, whatever engagements. And an online show, as good as they can be, it still it has a disconnect because, you know, you're looking at a screen essentially, and you might see the reaction of people in multiple screens, but it's different feeling than live. So just over this time, what have you been doing to kind of keep yourself inspired to go and continue to get like practice, make new music, and put that forward? What's something that you could kind of give as a tip for either yourself, your own experience, but also just for people that are listening, trying to figure out how to go and work towards still staying inspired to beatbox and create?
This might not be the answer you want to hear, but I've really started geeking out on like the marketing side of things, which is not anything to do with music at all. But I've started to learn as an independent artist that releases my own music. If I want to be a successful independent artist, I need to run a successful business, essentially. I'm self-managed. I don't have any team around me. And I started to get to the point where I was releasing loads of music and it was going so far, and then it was sort of like, oh, that's it then, it's over. All that months and months of hard work putting that EP together and it's over in a second. I thought, well, let me sort of learn how to get into marketing. And it's a whole new world. You can really deep dive into it. But just spending some time in lockdown, like learning about Facebook adverts and marketing funnels and things like that, like how creating the art is one side of it, and that's amazing. But if no one sees it, then it's a bit of a shame, really. The reason we make art is therapeutic reasons, to express ourselves, but it's also to make other people feel things, and the more people we can make feel things, the better. So I spent a lot of time in lockdown, figuring out some marketing stuff and talking to mentors, some sort of marketing gurus. And a lot of it is about, who are you as an artist? What do you stand for? What are you trying to say? What do you want people who listen to you to feel? And once you start asking those sort of fundamental questions, everything comes together a bit more, in terms of the content you're putting out, the music you're creating. So yeah, I would advise anyone to study that side of things a bit more if you want to take your artist career seriously and push it forward a bit more.
Those are definitely wise words, because I've noticed too that in some of your posts you're saying that when you had vinyls out and CDs out, you're basically sold out 300 copies, and hoodies and long sleeve shirts, you had 8 left or some such for recently. So you've been able to go and sell product and get your music out to people and get it on blogs and have different interviews, and people, as you said, gain that traction, so that projects that you've done and will do will get the attention, and people will be able to go and hear your music and hear your what you'd like to bring into that world, or our world rather. So it's definitely a good choice. It's something I need to do myself, and I would hope that anybody watching this will take time to go and maybe think about themselves and their artistry and artist career, where they are directing themselves,
Yeah, and it's something I never asked myself for a long time. I was never the kind of person that went, people would say, where do you want to be in 5 years? I'd be like, oh, I don't know, like happy. Where do you want to be in 1 year? And I don't know, beatboxing. And I was like that for years and years and years. And it's only recently, as I'm getting a bit older, that I'm starting to really like plan, setting myself goals, basically. Ultimately, where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? I'm still not certainly like sure how to answer that, so don't now ask me where do I want to be in 5 years time. But I'm starting to realize the importance of being able to answer those questions, because you can coast along for ages, and some people manage their whole careers just coasting along, like picking up traction and getting loads of gigs and doing really well. But I find the more you plan what you want and ask yourself why are you creating, the better your sort of career is going to be.
Yeah, it's funny that my brother's in the military, and he's always been a stickler for getting on me when say, like, what are you trying to do in that 5-year plan, and what's this plan, and try to have that rigid structure, because that's what he's used to having, obviously, in the military. And then I kind of was like, yeah, Gordon, it'll figure it out. It'll be okay. But in retrospect, and now even thinking about it, talking to you, it's definitely something that, myself included, most people should take more time to figure out, because the bigger that you get, the bigger that everyone gets in the scene, because beatboxing gets more knowledge, and people, you said you used to do shows with Demon Barbers when you were with this folk group, and you said you used to go to these like northern places in the UK, and you're doing these shows, and you'd ask who knows what beatboxing is, and you'd have the young people that would put their hands up, the older people wouldn't put their hands up, and kind of, you'd have some old guy come to you afterward and like, so you had a backing track when you were singing, right? So it's just that knowledge of getting beatbox out to a broader spectrum of people, because they'll get it, that's taken actually seriously, And I was going to say, when you started beatboxing, do you find in the UK, what was the level of like either exposure and respect that was given to the art form to where it is today?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Just the idea of when you got into the beatboxing, from what you would view it as, what did you see in the UK specifically was the level of respect and knowledge of beatboxing and awareness of beatboxing to where it is currently in today's UK?
Oh God. I mean, I teach like a lot of young kids online, and they all know what beatboxing is. Every single one of them. Some of them are 5 years old. I didn't know what beatboxing was at all until I was 14. And again, that's because I was in this little town where I was surrounded by beatboxers. I think most people probably wouldn't have heard of it from my generation, until they're in their sort of like late teens, 20s. So just in terms of like awareness, and that's the internet, obviously, it's much more far reaching. People are way more aware of it. In terms of respect for it, I still think it's mixed. you know. One of my favorite backhanded compliments I get is, you know, I really hate beatboxing, but you were really good. I'm like, thanks. I get that all the time. But people have quite a hate for beatboxing, and then people absolutely love it. It's kind of like Marmite. No one's like really in between with it, I find. Thankfully, the majority of people are sort of blown away by it and think it's a really cool skill, which we all do too, which is why we do it. But there's still a lot of like strange attitudes out there that think beatboxing is annoying, or like, oh, why don't you go and get a real job? Get that one quite a lot. Maybe they're just jealous that we get to make a living out of making sounds with our mouths. I remember that happened. One of my mum's boyfriends, me and Belle had just won the UK champs. I was so happy. It was the next day. I went over to my mum's house and she was dating this guy. And he was like, oh, yeah, great. Yeah, you're a UK champ now. But like, you know, what are you going to do when you grow up with, you know, what are you going to do later in life? And I looked at my mum. I was like, first off, who is this guy? But second off, I was like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? I've just won a UK championship. I've been a professional beatboxer now for like, whatever, 5 or 6 years. Like, I'm doing it right now. It is possible. And just the tone in his voice when he said it made me think, oh, there's a lot of people out there, maybe of an older generation, that don't get it and don't like it. I don't know if you find that.
Yeah, no, I've had experiences when just different people that I've talked to in my life and in areas of Canada that kind of like looked at it and they're always just like, bebop, and like, what are these silly noises you're having there, buds? You know, like, and I'm kind of like, oh, well, you know, just, and then I've had opportunities where I've gone to do small busker fests or street shows or little festivals in some of these more remote places, and family members or extended family or people, friends, you know, they come out to see it and all of a sudden they get it. Like, oh, wait a second. And they can see like you're the person that their kid runs over afterwards and is all excited to go and talk to you and learn about it, and they see that interaction and that interest. And I feel like that really helps to go and push a point across. And like you saying that you deal with kids and teaching kids, I've done the same for years, and like I love that opportunity and having friends hit me up saying, were you just at this school like on Tuesday? Did you do the show? And I'm like, yeah, I was there. Well, my kid won't stop beatboxing. Thanks, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. But that's the power of live performance, which I miss so much. Like whenever I would do a show, well, I used to, I don't really ask anymore, but I'd say, who has seen beatboxing before? A few people put their hand up. Who hasn't? And majority of the audience haven't. And even if I get to stage where I've been beatboxing for 10 years and maybe, I don't know, you know, sometimes you lose your passion for it. It dips and it goes up and down. Every time I do a show, I'm reminded of like reconnecting to that joy of when I first started performing, because these people are seeing beatboxing for the first time ever, and that's because of me. I get to do that every time I give someone their first ever experience. And there's no one that not because I'm an amazing beatboxer, but just because beatboxing has this power to it. Everyone always comes up afterwards and they're like, wow, what was that? That was amazing. I'm like, oh, even if I've had a bad gig, I'm like, oh yeah, it is amazing. That's why I got into it, and that's why more people need to see the amazingness of it.
I fully agree, and don't be selling yourself short there. You are an amazing beatboxer. Don't take that away from yourself. But when you started doing shows too, before you're in beatboxing, you know, you're in a band. You're in a band at 14 playing guitar with Bellatrix, and you're also working at lunchtime with Flash and trying to find out who's going to be in your band, an all-girl band. So very early on, I wanted to go and know too, working with an ensemble, working with a group, working with a band, that mentality obviously has served you now well, working with other people in studios, doing live shows with bands and stuff. And could you kind of just delve into the idea of how much, and again, this is speculation, but just the idea of right off the bat, starting into a band at 14 years old, working with people, whether you were doing big gigs, small gigs, or whatever in between. But that idea of working with other people is something that I'm trying to get throughout this whole program, people to understand the idea of working with others and the possibilities, because then you go from there, and I'll explain some more stuff in a little bit and tell more of your accomplishments and things you've done. But just that idea of working with people and how it has helped out your career early on to start with that.
Yeah, I mean, the creative industry is built on relationships and collaborations. Like every time you do a gig with someone, it leads to something else, and they'll know another mate who plays the drums, who can, get in touch with their flautist or whatever. And like, it's all about connections, and that can like keep your career snowballing forever. It's so important. Plus, you just every time you collaborate with someone new, you learn something new. And beatboxers are sort of in a unique position where they can just be plonked on stage with someone with a microphone, and they can just slot into anything, which is why I've been lucky enough to perform with, as you said before, Morris dancers, clog dancers, poets, tap dancers, ballet dancers, singers, drummers, violinists. Like, you can collaborate with absolutely anyone, which is the beauty of beatboxing, and collaborating with I just think it's great.
I fully agree, and I can see too. You said one of your first shows ever is down at QEH South Bank Center, and you're working with Shlomo and the box sets for like 2,000 people. One of your first actual beatbox performances. Now, again, that's a pretty heavy show to jump on stage for one of the first times. Proper to like, oh, there's 2,000 people staring at us. Let's go and do that. Do you think that kind of helped you that comfortability on stage, whether you're comfortable or not, but just to rise to an occasion of starting off at such a high note? Of most people start off with their first shows being, in front of a little bit of a school or like, a pub somewhere where they're doing an open mic, but to jump on and have a proper show in front of that many people, do you think that helped you with future shows coming up and being, whether it's nervous or not, being able to work through that?
Yeah, I think I remember that was my 5th ever show beatboxing. My first one was in a pub in Derby with Bellatrix, and we did a 5-minute gig. And I was so nervous for that, like unbelievably nervous. I had shooting pains like going down my little finger, and I yawn when I'm nervous too. So I was just sat at the back shaking and yawning for this 5-minute gig. But as you know, once you get that first one out of the way, like you feel like, okay, I'm ready for the next. I did a few more like open mic nights, again, 5-minute slots around Leeds. And it was all sort of to get myself some stage experience before I was suddenly shoved in front of 2,000 people. Because it was Bellatrix who got the box sets together, and Bellatrix had links with Shlomo, and they invited us to come and the first version of the box sets, to come and do a short skit. And I remember I had a scratching solo because my scratch was like really good, even like when I was a beginning beatboxer. And I came forward and I had like this 5-10 seconds of like, and I just remember looking out and there being 2,000 people going, wow. And then I stepped back into line, and that I did that gig, and then I went back to uni. So I was at Leeds Uni, and we all sat around in a circle like, hey, what did everyone do with their time off? Did you achieve anything? Did you blah blah blah? And I was like, I did a gig in front of 2,000 people. And everyone was like, what? No one even knew I could beatbox at that point, because I studied theater. So everyone just thought I was an actress, I guess. And that's when something clicked for me, and I was like, I just did a gig in front of 2,000 people, and this is my 5th ever gig. Like, this beatboxing thing feels bigger than me. It feels like it's a really huge thing that I really want to be a part of. And I was like, what am I doing at uni? I've got 3 years left now. I want to go back and do more of that beatboxing. But yeah, that was a sick gig.
Yeah, and speaking of uni as well, that's when Leeds University, you're studying theater after doing it as a kid. Of course, from when you said 8 years old, and continuing on with theater. And from what I can read, you've done a lot of theater, to say the least. You got a top 10 standout theatrical performance in 2014 for your role as Jade in Home at the National Theater. And then the theater world continues to go and give you opportunities that you earn, rather not give, but you show improve. And I wanted to go and say, I think one of the first ones that, again, what was it called here? The BWOP Outcast? Am I saying that correctly?
Beweep. Yeah, it's a weird title, Beweep Outcast.
But that was while you were in university, right? That you got that?
No.
Or that was just after?
No, that was quite recently, actually. That was it was a drama school. It was their final performance. They were doing an MA, and I taught them the music. I did the music for the show. So that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, well, sometimes the internet lies to Scott Jackson. All right. But again, just putting on that hat, many different hats that you wear, of being able to go and continuously get these theater shows, Did you find, again, having beatboxing in your pocket and being able to go like, oh, this makes me stand out above other people, would get you more gigs or different opportunities based on
Oh
that?
my
Like you're
God.
saying, creating the full production sound for a piece and a production rather.
100%. I wouldn't have had any of those gigs probably if it wasn't for beatboxing. I got them because I was a beatboxer. Like the National Theatre is like, oh my God, it's the National Theatre. It's like every actor's dream is to perform at the National Theatre. And I got that gig because I was a beatboxer. My character spoke in beatbox. Um, so when I was talking, I was meant to be, I was employed as just to be a musician really. So there were actors, and then I was going to do the music with the guitarist. But then the director one day in rehearsals shoved a jumper up my under my top to make it look like I was pregnant, and she was like, I want your character to be pregnant and I want her to speak only in beatbox. Let's just give it a go. Let's just do a scene. And because of my experience with doing 3 years at uni in theatre, I felt comfortable in that kind of environment, and I understood like about actioning and motivation. And so I wasn't just beatboxing willy-nilly. I was like, okay, if my line is, oi, who are you talking to? Then I'm going to say that in my head, but I'm going to beatbox. And then you act everything, but it's the sounds that come out of freestyle. And then the director was like, there's something quite magical about that, actually. And I was convinced I was going to be the laughing stock of the play. Like, people wouldn't get it. There's always that nervous moment before you put a show on when you're like, is this any good? I don't know. We've been stuck in this rehearsal for 6 weeks. Like, we hope it's good. Is this beatbox thing going to work? And it just resonated with people. And that's how I got the Guardian top standout thing. Because I guess people had never really seen anything like that before. And again, with the one woman show that I did with Blind, I used to fly at an Edinburgh festival for a theatre company called Paper Birds. So I would get a free ride to Edinburgh Fringe, and I'd flyer for this theatre company, hand out flyers. And I was beatboxing in the kitchen one day when I was washing up, and the director of that theatre company was like, I didn't know you could beatbox. I was like, oh yeah, you caught me beatboxing. And then she got in touch with me a year later and was like, I want to do a one woman show with you. Again, I thought she was going to get a woman to be the woman and I would do the beatboxing. She's like, no, I want you to be the woman. So because of my ability to beatbox, ended up building a whole hour-long one-woman show, kind of autobiographical, partly about beatboxing, partly about, my life and loads of things. So beatboxing is, it's the magic thing.
and I take it also that winning being 2-time UK female champ, both times ending up in the finals against, who was it? It was against Dana, I believe, and
Yeah.
also winning for the first time as 2 females coming into the UK champs, and not only winning but defending the tag team title as Bird. I take it that definitely helps, as well as just more feathers in the hat to go and get taken seriously, and people putting that respect and being like, oh, she's like top of the class UK champ, as you said, and maybe more so than your than mother's boyfriend would have given the respect to that title.
Yeah. Richard.
Richard. And when you come home and before we get, I want to ask more questions about the theater life and some things, because you've done more than just what we're talking about now as well. But when you go and take the UK title, not only as a solo for female and winning it 2 years in a row, what did it mean for you? Because in some interviews that I've read and online, you've said how much you and Belle winning as Bird was important, not only for you, but just the idea of having people being able to see someone, a young girl being able to see someone like them winning these titles and being up against the boys and being able to go and win, not just like a little battle here, or not winning on, and no, like winning on merit of, you guys beat them in a championship all the way through, and won once, then defended, and then yourself won once and defended your title. And that's something that I really think makes people stand out. If you can win a title once, it's a really big deal, but to come back and defend it is like a solidifying thing in the world. So what did it mean for you, just personally, winning not only the solos, but also as a tag team? What was going through your head, and just when you won those championships? And that's a question I usually ask most everybody that's been on this program, but I just really like to go and hear personally what it meant to you to go and win.
So it's it's easier to talk about this in hindsight. It's hard to remember what it really felt like at the time. Obviously, it just feels incredible, and you're on this high for ages. But then I think I talk about this a bit in my TED talk. A little of like bit of imposter syndrome starts to sink in a few weeks later. Like with the female champs at first, it was amazing to have won, but really, and I know women do this all the time. We talk ourselves down, and it's bad, and we should not do it. But there were only like 5 or 6 girls in that category. So I did win, and I was best in the country at that time, 2 years in a row, against 5 or 6 other girls, which is great, but it just wasn't enough for me. And I was like, do you know what? When Belle asked me to do a tag team and to enter in the mixed gender, obviously there isn't a female tag team section. I just jumped at it straight away, and I was like, yes, that's what I need to do. That's what we need to win. For me to sort of rest easy and prove to myself that I'm as good as the guys. And I'm not just giving this pity like, oh, well done, you won the female champs. Like, great, here's a pen for your prize, or whatever.
Bag of Smarties, here you go.
Yeah, exactly. God, I wish I was battling when you could win a car. By the time I got around to us, it had changed to a microphone. But that's fine. You know, we're not in it for the prizes. Yeah, winning the tag team with Belle twice is probably one of the biggest achievements of my life. Like, I feel just so happy about it whenever I think about it. You know, when you do something that terrifies you, the reason you do it is so that you can later on in life look back and go, yeah, I did that thing that was really scary, and you know, it didn't kill me. And we knew that we had to do it for other girls, because it's so easy just to go, oh, you know what, not this year. Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I'll do it next year. Oh, we're never going to win anyway, so what's the point? Oh, it's going to be really hard work. You actually just have to think about it as in a bigger sense. So what would this mean for other girls seeing us up on that stage? Not winning, but just competing, just standing up and going, we can be here too. We can take up this space as well, and we're not scared, even though we were scared.
Even though you guys did win. I wanted to go and ask too, is because you've done now, you've worked on Loop Station, obviously, with like, we'll talk about some of the Loop Station pieces you've done and stuff, but with the Loop Station work that you've done, solo beatboxing, outside of your music career, do you ever think about jumping back into the battle scene? Is that something that would ever cross your mind, whether it be Loop Station, solo, and or tag team again?
Maybe me and Belle as a tag team there's been a couple of times we were meant to do Grand Beatbox Battle, but something happened, something came up with Belle, so she couldn't go. So that got cancelled. And then coronavirus happened, and we just haven't had a chance. But I've never been to the World Champs either, so I would love, just for the fun of it, just to experience it, to do a tag team at Grand Beatbox or the World Champs, because I've never been to either. In terms of solo battling, that's not my thing. I'm not motivated to be a solo battler. Lots of people have asked me if I would enter the looping category, but my looping style isn't really like battly, I guess. Again, it's just the fear, isn't it? The fear creeps in, and the older you get, the more you go, oh, I've done my time. I've earned my stripes. I've got my awards. Do I need to put myself through that again? And the more and more I think about it, the more I think it's not, if I'm not excited by it, then what's the point? You know, I'm excited by writing songs and writing music at the moment, but never say never, Scott Jackson.
I will never say never. I fully agree with you, because I think that it's interesting you bring up the idea of battle. How you're saying your sound isn't a battle sound necessarily, but then you've seen much success. There's been much success. Someone like Gene, as an example, winning the full GBB, being the first. For me, that was huge as a North American, seeing him go over and win. But he rising to the occasion. And yes, he had battles. He did have battle stuff in it, but as the musicality, and it was different, and it was him being himself, and that's what really rose to the occasion and put him above everybody else, in my opinion. So you never know. Maybe you can make small changes to some of your sets, and you can add in some little bits of stuff. Because I think that'd be cool to go and see you jump on a Loop Station battle for sure.
Yeah. You're not the only one who said that, so I'm thinking about
it. There's a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, people out there, you may see her back on a stage one of these days, whether it be tag team or Loop Station. It may happen. Back to theater stuff too. I saw that after you win, after you win the tag team in 2015, you get to do something that I thought was super, super duper cool. And you get to work with, what was it called? It was Life in Progress with ballet dancer Sylvie, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, Guillem?
Guillem. Close.
Guillem, I guess that, by Akram Khan. And the whole thing was her career, and you were put in with a violinist and an Indian percussionist, and you got to go and travel and play all these huge different venues with this thing. And you said that you even got to perform at like the Sydney Opera House as one of the main attractions. Could you kind of explain a little bit behind that show? And is there a video of it? Because I tried to find some stuff, and I didn't really see that many things out there of like I'd love to go and see that show because it sounded super interesting.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't record it. I'm sure Sadler's Wells, who's the theatre company in England that sort of put the project on and sent us off around the world, I'm sure they've got like archive footage of it somewhere. It's really sad, actually. There was a French woman who was following us, Sylvie, around the whole tour and was filming a documentary. Sadly, she passed away not long ago. So I have no idea what's going on with that documentary footage that she was creating, whether it's gone out on French TV or I don't know. But yeah, it's a real shame that there's nothing out there on that. But that was one of the best gigs of my life. I mean, how many times in your life do you get offered a gig where you go, hey, we want you to beatbox in this 15-minute piece and we're going to take you around the whole world for a year, and pay you like a decent fee as well. I think I was only 25 or 26 at the time. I was just like, yes, please, I'll come.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. But it wasn't even really beatboxing what I was doing. It was a contemporary dance piece. And so Akram Khan is like a very well-known choreographer. And he works a lot with Indian percussionists. So a lot of the sound, I learned how to do a little bit of like vocal bowls, the sort of so at first I was like beatboxing along to that, which was nuts to learn. But I learned by listening, not by reading or anything. So I just listened to that over and over and over. And then there was a violinist who was sort of looping stuff. But we found that the beatboxing was a bit too intrusive for the piece. So I actually ended up doing a lot more like crazy animal jungle sounds with loads of delay on. I did a lot of like shakers as well, like that, and going like and like all these like really crazy jungle sounds, and then just putting them on the loop station. And yeah, and after doing that for a whole year, I was like, I'm not even beatboxing. I'm on a world tour doing animal sounds. Like, how have I got this gig? It feels like too good to be true.
Well, they saw you in 2012 at the CBeebies, or whatever that's called, the CBeebies, with your beatboxing parrot thing that you did. So they might have been like, hey, wait a second.
Exactly. That was one of my like most viewed videos ever. You put all this hard work into like making great music and all this stuff, and then the video that people always talk to me about is like, hey, you did a CBeebies poem about a parrot. My kid loves it. I'm like, well, okay, yeah.
Well, that's like I was talking. I remember Tom Thumb was going on about that. He just did he did his TEDx with I believe the last one was in Bombay, and he's like, the production and all the craziness that I was working with with Mr. Hamilton, we're doing this big thing, and then when he puts it out, it's like it just didn't hit like the other one where they kind of like last minute first TEDx, could you go and do this? And he's like, oh sure, I'll try something different. And
yeah,
like it's funny with what hits on the internet and what people respond to. But I thought that was cool though. What you did for the kid program, I thought that was super dope. Actually, that's something that I'd like to see more of. And I don't know, it's just fun. Playing for kids is fun.
Yeah, totally.
And,
I've always wanted to turn that into like a children's book, actually. The parrot that could beatbox. I thought it would be a great idea. It's one of those things, you have these ideas and then you never actually follow through with it.
Because you have a billion other things on your plate as you do it.
Too many fingers and too many pies.
Well, that's something you could think of though. Right now, I know again I'm referencing Tom again, but he's done a handful of it's super dope. He's been doing like kids songs, but he'll make the whole soundscape and kind of rap along what's happening in the thing, and they pair it with the cartoon and stuff that he draw. Anyways, something that maybe you should do. I'd love to go and see that beatbox parrot become more than that, and you could, if people are saying it's one of the things they love about you most, maybe run with it. You never know.
It makes sense. My marketing mentor would say, do it.
Well, Scott Jackson says do it too. Come on. Again, going back to theater performances as well. You've been a cast member on Home, which spoke on a national theater show once again that you did. That was verbatim testimony from people in East London shelters that would give their testimony, and you were a cast member on that as well. When I don't know, I'm not sure how to pose this question, but when you start dealing with more than entertainment, more than these things, and like kind of real world issues, how do you? I don't know how to say this. I'm trying to figure it out the best way of just like when art and real world things come together, and you have serious things that you have to talk about or serious topics and things that you want people to go and get out of shows or maybe think of in some shows. How do you find you deal with kind of cutting your emotion maybe out of it, or being able to go and stay in the moment and not getting overtaken by that emotion? If you know what I mean, like if you're talking about a serious subject that you feel strongly about and you have to perform it, but still keep yourself centered enough to perform. Do you find there's ways that you've been able to do that as an artist? Because your music and other things that you've done since then as well, I find that it must be difficult to go and keep yourself centered enough to perform these things without getting caught up maybe in the emotion of it.
Yeah, I mean, I never went to drama school. I studied theatre, so it was very sort of like intellectual, academic side of it a lot of the time. But I know actors in drama school, that's what spend a lot of time, accessing. And there are lots of different ways to access this, lots of different methods and theories, and different people that have, say you should really connect to your emotion. You should think about something really painful, and that, that's going to make you cry, and that's how you recreate that emotion. But I think that's going out of fashion a little bit now, and it's actually quite dangerous to access and perform art by accessing those deep emotions in that way. You very much learn to, it's a fine line. You want to connect with the emotion so that people feel it, but you don't want to do damage to your own emotions, especially if you're doing a theatre show where you're doing that 8 times a week. I mean, we don't really have to deal with that on a beatboxing level, but there are some shows where people have to pour their hearts out and cover some really dark, deep, personal stuff. So it is a challenge and something you need to finesse, I think, knowing how far you can take that. I don't think I've got choked up singing personal songs at home, but there's something about when I go on stage, like Doctor Theatre, no matter what you're going through, being on stage, suddenly you're like, right, it's showtime. It's a professional face, and I'm going to act the emotion, and I'm going to go tip myself to the point where I feel it, and then I'm going to pull back so that it doesn't become monotonous and robotic. But yeah, I don't think I've ever had a real emotional moment on stage where it's sort of spilled over. I've had times when I've been laughing so much I haven't been able to stop. Like when I was doing that show Home, me and Michaela, every time we went and we had a scene together, we'd been doing the show for months. By this point, you're sort of like, oh, it just becomes like you start thinking about your dinner as you're performing, because you're just doing the same moves over and over. To keep it alive, she sort of, we're supposed to come on stage, falling on stage, laughing and giggling. So she started like poking me in places and like tickling me, so that when we came on, it was like genuine laughter. And one day she just inserted a finger like where she shouldn't, and I literally was like just a little bit, just a bit like that. And I was like, oh. I was like, you did not just do that. We're at the National Theatre, and I came on stage laughing. But then my character was speaking in beatbox, so I was just absolutely pissing myself laughing, trying to beatbox. And I think
which is difficult.
It's so difficult. Like I barely got through the scene, and then I was crying my eyes out just from pure laughter. But yeah, I think I went off on a different tangent there. But
no. Emotions, yeah, no, I meant more on the serious side, but that's true too. Trying to keep it while someone's poking you or whatever, you're like, that's a difficult task for sure, I can assume. Holy Lord. And again, more whew, that's just a funny story. I think I would have a very hard time beatboxing after that.
Do you know what, actually, That reminds me more on this subject. Not that you asked, but when I was doing the vocal orchestra show, so it was Shlomo and his a cappella group.
Yep.
Again, we were doing 8 shows a week. It was a 6-week run at the Udderbelly, and actors and cast members always start playing like little tricks on each other, like let's pass this piece of tissue around the cast and see who it ends up with, or something, just to keep it alive, because when you're doing the same thing over and over. And we started doing this thing because we all had microphones, where when someone was at the front of the stage and they were having a solo, whether it's singing or beatboxing, you had to like try and get your microphone wedged in between their bum cheeks. And then if you were singing, you just had to sort of like carry on as if it didn't happen. So we were all just walking around singing and dancing, like poking microphones up each other's bums, just because that we were that bored on stage. Not bored, but you know what I mean.
No, to cut monotony, you have to go and make things interesting. And I will say though, wouldn't that be rugged though to go and do and then put back, because that's your mic, you know, like the joke's kind of on yourself in retrospect. You're like,
exactly. People don't think about those things. The lengths people will go to for like a cheeky joke on stage.
That's great too. Whew. Again. The funnies.
Sorry to lower the tone. I'm lowering the tone.
No. Let's keep it down there. So microphones. No, let's pick it up from there. I wanted to go and ask too. Lastly, I know you have more things, because there's something that you said where I'll ask you after this, but your show that you were doing with the Paper Birds company and the show Blind, that kind of, in some of that, from what I've heard you talk about, was loosely what your TED Talk was based on eventually, and kind of some similarities that you'd bring it on over. And I want to just go and ask you about the TED Talk too, because that was something that I thought was super cool. And when I watched it, it was an eye-opening experience for myself to go and watch, and to see names that I recognize up on that screen when you were doing that. And you said it's not to shame people. It's up to them, because they wrote stuff. You have to go and stand behind whatever you write, and if you have, the gall to put that out there, it's the internet. It doesn't go and delete itself. And how was it for you? Is there more TED Talks in the future possibly? Is that something that's in the future for yourself that you'll do outside? Because you said this was started off as, I'll do something entertainment in between these kind of grave subjects that they were having, and then you're supposed to be the hey, and then all of a sudden you got the opportunity to go and voice what you were like wanted to, and given the opportunity to go and think about it more than just entertainment, which you did a good job of too. And are there more TEDx comments possibly? Is that something that you would be interested in doing?
I have a funny relationship with public speaking. Once I've done it, I really enjoy it, and I really love writing as well, and I love the process of like preparing a speech and getting a point across. I feel like I've lost that sort of side of my brain in the past 10 years since I haven't been, studying or anything. But it really, really scares me to the point that I just get so nervous. And I'm sure if I was to do more regular public speaking, it would be fine. But because I've done the TED Talk, I've done a couple of like master classes and a couple of things called lost lectures, which we have in the UK, where you sort of give a speech on anything you want, really. I've done a couple of them, and then from that I started to get asked to do a bit more public speaking, and my immediate reaction was just like, no, I'm not a public speaker. I did the TED Talk because that was a challenge I set myself, and I was like, I couldn't say no. If someone gives you the opportunity to talk about something in front of 2,000 people, to be on the internet forever, to something that felt quite important to me, I was like, I can't let my fears get in the way of that. So the answer is I would love to do more public speaking, but I'd love to get over this annoying fear I have with it. It's just quite a terrifying experience.
Fair enough. I've heard that microphones and bum usually help, like you get someone to tickle you backstage and just
Why didn't I think of that?
Well, someone smart told me about that a couple minutes ago, like I'd probably listen.
Yeah, you can take that tip.
Yeah.
Anyone out there feeling nervous, just
Yeah, right. Wash your microphones. Keep your microphone clean for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, and I noticed too, you ended off one interview where you mentioned there's a possibility of something new theater project that you haven't been able to talk about. Can you talk about it yet? Or am I wrong on that? Because you said that something was happening possibly near December that was going to be in the works, but you couldn't talk about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can talk about it, but it didn't happen because of coronavirus. So I was
I don't mean to bring a
Basically.
sore spot. Well, anyways, I'm not sure. No, just sorry, go.
Oh, well, it might happen next year, so it's still in the pipeline. But oh, sorry, this year. This year we're in 2021. I don't know if you guys have pantomimes in Canada.
Yeah.
You do?
Yes, well, we're a Commonwealth country, you know.
Oh yeah, of course you do. Do Americans have pantomimes?
Well, that's that. I'm not sure. I'm not American.
No,
Couldn't
that's true.
answer.
How dare I? You're not the same. Um,
Well, I
okay,
mean,
so
you're almost Irish, right? So.
it was a pantomime, Aladdin, at the Lyric Hammersmith Theatre. And I was asked, the writer, who's someone I know from the theatre scene, had written this part for me. She wanted a beatboxing genie. So I was going to play the beatboxing genie in the pantomime. And I was so looking forward to it. And they were going to like hoist me up in a, what do you call it? Like I was going to fly around the theatre basically when I came out the lamp and do all the lamp sounds. And I get to sing this big song. And then coronavirus happened and I didn't get to do it. And I was gutted.
Well, I don't want to bring up a sore spot, but I want that. I'm going to will that. Everybody watching, will this to happen? I'm going to wonder, are you going to be similar colors to your background right now? They're going to put you like, going to go blue makeup or whatever and like.
I think they wanted me to be like just myself. Like when I kind of had an audition, but it was sort of like be in the rehearsal and just read it through kind of thing. And I put on a genie voice and I was being a genie. And they were like, actually, we prefer it just when you're Grace. Like just read the lines normally. So I was like, oh, okay. I think that's the whole point, that I'm this big magical mystical thing that comes out a lamp. Then I'm just like, you're right.
Well, I would love to see that. I hope that I genuinely hope and wish that this will happen for you, because I think that you as a genie, smashing.
I think it'd be the pinnacle of my career, to be honest.
For then, up until that point, you know, you did a lot of other stuff, but that would be an icing on the cake. When are you, aka a genie?
Yeah, man.
And I wanted to go and ask now more about music side of things, because you said that you did a cover of Amy Winehouse's F Me Pumps, and that was the first time that somebody had ever said, oh, you can sing. And that kind of might have triggered the idea of maybe you've got more than just beatboxing. Maybe I should go and pursue making my songwriting and storytelling abilities go and match the voice that I have. And yeah, you started in 2013. I found the first thing that I found was like Locked Out of Heaven / Messages in a Bottle cover that you did.
Yeah.
And then from there, you do all sorts of things, working with many different people. And I was going to say that when your first EP comes out in 2017 was when you started getting, I think, I might be wrong, because you did stuff like the SBTV Banks cover, and you started doing some other things that covers, but your own music, a lot of your own music, I believe, started coming out 2017, if I'm not wrong, because 2016 you do Diamonds, which is your first SBX shout out, and then 2017 your self-titled EP comes out.
Yes.
And as I can see too, a lot of the music is very personal to you, which most artists, it is personal to them, obviously. There's some people that just kind of sing what's in front of them and written for them. But I found that reading up on a lot of the interviews that you've done, the music that you make is very personal, where it comes from relationships you've had with people, and also obviously personal experiences. And that Medusa song that you covered at the beginning of this, and you said it was a song about working with a producer on a project, and something happened where it kind of slowly the whole thing went down, and you had 2 albums worth of stuff that kind of went down. So can you kind of explain your mindset in 2017 of bringing that out, and kind of getting over the fact of working with this person and being able to go and release something for yourself by yourself?
Yeah, I was really broken after. I won't go too much into it, but I basically I was sort of plucked. I did a talent show where I was beatboxing, and I was plucked from that talent show by this producer. Come to my studio, we're going to write songs together. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, she's just taking me under her wing, and we're going to write songs together. And we did for like 2 years. Like I said, we had 2 albums worth of songs, like 30 songs. And at no point, at any point, had we ever discussed like the legalities of things, contracts. It was all just done on a handshake. And I was young, I didn't know the music industry, and it just came and hit me in the face and was a bit like, right, here's the contract. And I took it to a lawyer. Didn't have any money, but I spent loads of money on getting a lawyer to look over it, and my lawyer was just like, this is horrendous, like, you shouldn't sign this. It basically gives you no rights. You can't work with other people. She wants to be your manager as well. And as soon as I started to question it, things got nasty, and the relationship went from being one of my sort of mentors and gurus and friends. We speak on the phone every day, to like, oh, isn't what I thought it was these past 2 years, and this has all just been completely business for you. And I was just tra la 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 la. I'm writing songs, but of course she was giving me studio time, and she wanted all that money back. But it was just communication is key. Don't do business with your best friends unless you're completely trust them. Or don't mix business and pleasure too much is my advice as well. But anyway, that ended, and I basically in the end decided to walk away rather than sign this bad contract. I said, you know what, it's not worth my time. I don't need you in order to make music. So goodbye to all those songs. Goodbye to those years of working completely on my own again. I didn't know anyone else in the music industry, and I was really, really close to just giving up completely this whole idea of being a full artist. I did a lot of crying. I'd also gone through a big breakup as well. So I think I was about 26 at the time, but everything I sort of knew and what I built my whole world around, like relationship wise, had just disappeared. And my career, what I thought was going to be, had disappeared. I picked myself back up again. I got in touch with a friend of mine who I'd been writing a few songs with. And I said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to do it on my own. So that was that first single, and it was terrifying. And then in the chorus it says, "I stand alone," and that's it. Really resonates with me now, that song, because it's the beginning song of the journey of where I've got to now. Me releasing 4 EPs independently and slowly picking myself back up and getting that confidence back with every song that comes out. So yeah, that song really does mean quite a lot to me.
And it's a smash hit. I want more people to hear it. More people should hear it. And you have it on Spotify and all sorts of places. So people go and check out Spotify and SoundCloud if you want to hear some of the older stuff too. And you continue on with that too. You have King of the Jungle, and that song was inspired by an orange gentleman there. Yeah, that song come out, and I don't know. It's interesting to me that I've never written a song. I've written little things here and there that I think are funny or whatever, but I've never put something that I'm gonna stand behind of wanting to connect with an audience or get to have them think a certain way possibly or feel a certain emotion. That's never been something I've done as of yet. And just the songwriting process and being a songwriter is just like, it's so interesting. And I think you've been able to do it in such a good way of being able to go and just a lot of the topics that you're hitting on, and they're personal to you, obviously, and you can hear it in the music too. It's not like, I don't know, it's just not like a lot of music that has come out that people can write and do whatever they want. But I find there's a lot of music that's just kind of fluff, like for lack of better words. Just why make music if it's not going to connect and bring something out of people, emotion or a thought or an experience that people should hear about, So when you're sitting down writing stuff, this is I'm not going to ask the corny like what inspires you to go and do it, but after you get an idea and you start working on stuff, I know that you've co-written with guys like Ben Cartwright and Jason Julian, I think was some of the people that you've co-written with. So what does that look like from people that are maybe thinking about writing songs? So you come up with an idea, you might write some stuff. How does it work with or thus far in your experience?
It really depends. Like every song I've written has had a different journey. Like if you look at Medusa, for example, that I didn't know anything about production then. So I literally just got an Apple loop and I dragged that into Logic, and that was that bass. Dum, 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 dum. And I beatbox over top and went. It's really simple. And I just started writing on top of that. One bass line and one beat. And often I collect like little bits of poetry. I have a document which is has about 10,000 words in it. And that's just me over the years writing. And then when I go into a songwriting session, I go, oh, what's this about? Oh, I've written about this sort of topic. Let's expand on that. So I don't really like going into rooms completely blank. I like to have something to start off with. Other times it could start from a melody. Just be going along and I'm humming and I'm like, oh, that's a sick bass line, like King of the Jungle. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, I can't go that low. Ha, 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 ha. And I was like, oh, let's build a whole song around that bass line. or that sort of synth thing. And yeah, it can start whatever way you want it to, really. And I've definitely got better at songwriting as the years go by, learning from other people, taking songwriting classes, learning about. I think being a beatboxer really helps with the kind of rhythms that I choose in terms of the melodies and stuff like that. Because I think in quite a rhythmic way. But everything I write has something personal behind it, pretty much. Because I don't want to be on stage just like put your hands in the air. I mean, that's okay for one or two songs, but in order for me to get something out of this, it has to mean something to me. It's I mean, everyone says it, but it's therapeutic, isn't it? It's how I get things out, things that I can't express to friends or family. I always put it in my songs.
And is that another thing as a songwriter personally? Do you find yourself like as a beatboxer? I find walking around, there's just usually a continuous something going on in the back of the head and just a little whatever it is, just kind of to yourself. But as a songwriter, is that like that paired? Does that pair with beatboxing where you kind of might be thinking a beat and you kind of beatbox and all of a sudden you're kind of like, wait a second, okay, and you like memorize that little part and that comes into the songwriting. I just the process is fascinating to me.
I find with songwriting, ideas will pop up when I'm reading a newspaper and there's a headline, or in fact, that exactly happened with Snowflake, which is a song about being a snowflake, like the generation, millennial generation, where we're all too sensitive. So I came up with that concept and I thought, let me read some articles on like what people say about snowflakes. And this is the only time I've ever done this. I actually stole a line from the newspaper article. It called snowflakes thin-skinned emperors. I just thought that was the most amazing way to describe snowflakes. And off that, I then riffed and I came up with my own line, a cotton wool queen, or whatever. I can't even remember my own lyrics now. But just that one line that you read can inspire a whole concept. And when I hear people say things casually in conversation to each other, I'm always like, oh, that's a sick lyric. And I'll write it down straight away. So I don't know how that matches to beatboxing. I kind of maybe see them as two separate things. The beatboxing sort of pairs with the songwriting, but I think my way of coming up with beats and coming up with lyrics are two quite different processes.
And do you feel like at all some of your that idea of writing, as you said, writing stuff down, and you said that being out of school, you haven't written down as much maybe necessarily, and that's why you have issues approaching public speaking. But do you think that schooling and that writing down and kind of doing that in a scholastic way or whatever you want to call it has carried over to your songwriting, of being able to go and think the process, as you said, of having that 10,000 word thing that you can kind of go back to in your songwriting? Do you think that there's any connection in between theater school, being in the theater, and pairing it with your music?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've always really, really enjoyed writing, whether that's long form or short form, or the only time I really truly get to express that is in my lyric writing now. I'm not sure I would say it's too connected to like the essays that I used to write, but I read a lot as well. And I think I actually bought a thesaurus and another one, which is like a book of synonyms, basically. And sometimes when I'm running out of ideas, I go through that and I pick a word and I go, oh, that's a cool word. How can I make a sentence or a song concept out of that? Like it's everywhere. You just have to hone in on it. Anyone can write songs.
Well, you're doing a good. You're again, 4 EPs. Control Freak comes out. You do followed up by Running Water, and your UK Complex did a piece with you about that, asking you about it, and then moving forward into Cracks EP, where you do that as well. I was gonna say the most recent one that I thought was super cool, and I'm excited because you said that you worked with people, and you get this PPL Momentum Music Fund, and that's like, again, from Canada's perspective, I don't know what that is really, but it's apparently a huge thing that you got behind you to go and produce a self-produced album and EP rather, and the vinyl was available. You doing well selling those as well. But the Instinct EP that you most recently came out with in 2020, 4 songs, and all of them again are very personal. Obviously, could you kind of in 2020, because that was obviously during lockdown and stuff when you start making this happen. What is the PPL Momentum Music Fund? Could you kind of explain that process of how you got selected for that? And secondarily, just talk about the EP, Instinct EP, that just the songs and what some of them mean to you.
So the Momentum Fund, and I don't know if this is a distinctly British thing. I'm not sure how much funding you guys have for artists, but we've got the Arts Council, we've got PRS, PPL, Momentum. There are lots of funding you can apply for as an upcoming emerging artist. It's very competitive, but it is there if you want to apply for it. And most of my EPs have been funded by crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter or whatever, and a mixture of these funding things. So this particular one I applied for 3 times. I actually got Hans Zimmer to be my reference, the actual Hans Zimmer to write me a reference, and that's a whole other story. But I thought, you know what, I got this in the bag. I've got Hans Zimmer saying that, you know, you should give Grace Savage this funding, and I still didn't get it. They probably thought like it was a fake, it wasn't the real Hans. So you have to be persistent with these things. Like people get knocked back constantly, and it can be so many reasons why you don't get the funding. But the 3rd time round, I got it, and it was $5,000, 5,000, and that basically funded my whole Instinct EP, which is just a sigh of relief because you then go, okay, I don't have to scrimp and scrape and save and really, you know, put a low budget on this. I can spend my money wisely and put out the best EP possible. It meant that I could get vinyls done, for example. I've never been able to do that. So for this EP, I wanted to go for a slightly darker sound because I've always felt like I've had 2 personalities. I really like upbeat pop music. I also really like dark, I don't know, like sad songs, James Blake, that kind of vibe. And I love drum and bass, and I love the dark hip hop. But I've always felt like, because I'm quite a happy, upbeat person, maybe that hasn't suited my musical style. And there's a constant balance of going like, what's your sound? What's your sound as an artist? And actually, the beauty of being an independent artist is my sound can be whatever the hell I want it to be. You know, if I want to do No One Ever Told Ya, You're Running Underwater, and I want to be like, hey, put your hands in the air, I can do that if I want to do it. And then the next song, it can be dark as hell. Like, I want to take people on that journey. And I've got to the stage now where I'm like, I should stop caring so much about my sound. My sound's going to be my sound because it's got my voice and my lyrics behind it, you know? So with this EP, I went a bit darker. I thought it might not make, you know, all the playlists and all that stuff because it's not, I don't know, I felt like I wasn't making hits. But actually, it's probably one of my more successful EPs in that sense. So there's a true, you know, indication of following your heart and following what you really truly want to do can take you further. So I had songs on there, Falls the Heart, which is about my heartbreak and me turning into a bit of a monster and how rejection can make you feel, and also hints in a sort of subtle way about my sexuality and dealing with that. Strange is a song about being a woman coming into your 30s and feeling like you're strange if you don't want to have children, or you know, that external pressure that society puts on you of your ticking clock. I think a lot of people don't talk about that. Open Up is a song I wrote for my mum, who's she's a tough cookie. She doesn't really talk about her emotions, and British people, as a general stereotype, don't open up about their emotions, and I struggle with that sometimes. So it was a song about opening up, and it's okay to like show your emotions. I can't even remember what the other. So there's another one on there. The Thing,
yes.
And The Thing is about like me not having any sort of particular religion or belief or faith in God, but knowing there's something out there, and like there's feeling there's something missing, like there's got to be more than life to this. So that's sort of attacking the bigger questions. So yeah, I pack quite a lot into one little EP.
One 4-track EP, and also how was it working with this is the first time on an EP from what I can see that you worked with different rappers, and you had Lady Sanity and Shady that were working with you. So are they mates? Are they people that you've met in the music scene and decided to have like approach them with, like, I got this idea, or were they just like, we should do something together, and it worked out that it would be on your EP?
I wanted to work with more women. And I thought a great obvious way to do that was to start working with some female MCs that I've shared the stage with, really, and I've met just within the music industry. I wouldn't say they were mates as such. They're just people that I respect and think are great, and I've done gigs with them before. Lady Sanity is a sick MC from Birmingham. Shady as well. She's like been one of the hardest working, hardest grafting MCs around. And I'd never worked with a rapper before. So again, I sort of threw everything out the window with this EP and went, why the hell not? Yeah, I think they did a great job. Hopefully one day I'll be able to get on stage and actually invite them onto the stage.
Yes, that was my follow-up question. Is I'm excited for you. Obviously, we talked about this before, but that inspiration of building music and have it pull out for you to be able to perform it and be able to go and showcase it live in front of people. It's gonna be cool. It's got to be a cool thing for you to think of, that you have the opportunity to go and actually do a release maybe, or like not virtual or something, but actually an actual physical release and perform to a crowd and have these and have the rappers come out and perform with you and share a stage. That I'm looking forward for you to be able to do that, because I think it's going to go well for you. And most recently too, currently you have the pre-orders going on for Ragdoll, which is going to be coming up soon. So could you speak a little bit more about your next single and where people can go and find out more about that as well and support that? Because I know that you have a 10-second clip if people were to do something. So let's talk about that for a second.
So Ragdoll, again, because I had the darker EP that came out, I was like, I've had a year off, I want to start this song with a bang. So it's quite an uplifting, sort of joyful, anthemic song. And it's about my inability to say I love you to my girlfriend at the time. You know, that fearful bit when you're like, oh my God, I'm falling in love, but the thought of actually saying the words is terrifying. I feel like I'm getting choked. So it's kind of about that. I actually ended up using that song as the soundtrack to my proposal when I proposed to her. So I went in the studio and I changed the lyrics from, so I stitch my lips and I run for the trees, to Jada Nuka, will you marry me? And we put the harmonies behind it. And I've been building this up for like 6 months. God, for guys that traditionally have to propose, I understand it's a lot of pressure. So I ended up playing this song. I was like, hey, I got this new song. We're on a beach in Mexico. We're having dinner. We're like sat down in this little private tent thing. And I whop out one of my own songs. It's like, for God's sake, why are we listening to one of your songs now? This is like so romantic, this setting. I was like, no, I just want you to listen to the lyrics. And then the song happened, and then I got the ring out. And so it's got quite a sort of a very personal attachment, this song. And we shot the music video when we were on holiday in Cuba. So it's like loads of really sick shots of Cuba. And yeah, you can pre-save it via the link in all my bios and all my stuff. And I plan on releasing a single every 6 weeks for the next year, which I've never done before. And I'm slightly terrified about. But I think it's going to be possible and it's going to be fine.
And of course, she said,
oh, yes.
There we go. Congratulations. Exciting. So there's that coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you go check it out, support it. It's going to be coming out soon. And I wouldn't be worried too much about, putting yourself in a position to put something out on a 6-week thing, because you're doing Savage Sounds, which you're also on episode 44, which lined up, which we figured out here, that you're on episode 44 and I'm on episode 44, that you're doing a weekly slap over hands. Yes.
High five.
Yes. And you've been having different guests on there as well, coming to teach sound as well, from Kayla to Hobbit and Bass Ventura and Kimmy. You had a plethora of people so far teaching sounds, and that's super cool too. They can find that on your YouTube channel that you've been doing, which is super dope, because if you want to learn how to beatbox, back in the day you were reading stuff. Like I talked with Hobbit, you had to read what Type was writing, and you'd actually have to break it down and be like, okay, so that is a, and he's written it like this, and then you make an F, and like you're trying to read it out. Whereas now people can log on and learn from one of the best, get to go and get some information on how to beatbox. So people subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you do that as well. And before we go get into another thing I wanted to go and ask you about is 2020. You and your partner, she wrote it and directed it and did the narrative / spoken word part of it. and you did the music behind it, also acted in it, and you both acted in it along with your with Evie Wonder, your dog.
Yes.
Gets a shout out.
Yes.
And you make Her and Her, a short film that you guys did together whilst in lockdown, sponsored by the Arts Council, Space Arts, Battersea, and I think I said that correctly. But it's had oh yeah, and BBC Arts. But it speaks on the relationship that you guys have, and being in this lockdown and you moving into a spot all filmed on her iPhone by yourself and stuff, which has gone super well. It's 12 minutes or almost 13 minutes long. If you guys would like to check it out, I do not want to say this incorrectly, but I believe it's Jade Anuka.
Hey, yes.
Yes. Okay, most stressful part of the whole interview was getting that name right. You know, I don't want to go and do that there. But I watched it today, and it was really, really, really well done. It'll bring out some emotions in you people when you're watching it, or hopefully it does. But it did for me, and it was interesting to go and see the way, just a lot about it, just thoughts that go through people's minds, and especially being who I am, getting to go and see from a different perspective is definitely eye-opening. And one of the things that you said in it is we should all live in color, not stuck in the monochrome. And I like that. It was very well done. And you have also won with that. You've been in 19 different film festivals so far, and you won not only in LA but my hometown of Toronto. You won the best, what is that called, at the Feedback Fest. You won for best sound and music. So could you talk a little bit about the short film that's come out, the press that you guys got from it, and are there more projects coming out that you guys will be collaborating on? Because I think it was amazingly done. I'd love to go and see more come from you guys.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, you pretty much said it in a nutshell. It's sort of a story about interracial same-sex couple. It's us. We're not playing ourselves. It's based on characters. And it's about them moving in together into a small space, and how that can have an effect on a relationship, what sort of conversations that brings up, in terms of race and our own upbringing. There's one dialogue scene. So it's a sort of a mixture of prose, poetry, and beatboxing. But there is one dialogue scene, and we talk about moving to the countryside, and how that would have an effect on either of us in different ways. You know, one of Jade's lines is, "Yeah, but babe, I'm black, remember?" And I'm like, so? And it's that idea of, me not understanding the impact that might have and how she might feel in that sense. And maybe the world hasn't quite caught up yet with us. And there's sort of an anthemic ending where we're like, do you know what? We're fine here in our own little bubble, on our own little island. And until the world catches up, we're going to stay here. So it covers quite a lot in 13 minutes. And that's credit to Jade's amazing writing. We've worked together quite a lot on little gigs, where she'll perform her poetry and I'll sort of provide background soundtracky kind of music. So this was a development of that. We had never made a short film before. We did it on an iPhone in lockdown. Normally you have a director, a DOP. The editor we were working with was in Poland, and his camera didn't even work on his laptop, so all the editing had to be done via notes. We were working 12-hour days. It was really, really intense process. And when we put it out, we had no idea how it would be received, but it's been kind of phenomenal, the response. And yeah, to get into 19 film festivals, which we haven't been able to attend, is really shit. It would have been amazing to I've never been to Canada. Like, the fact that I won an award
Yet.
It would have been great if we could, jet around and schmooze and be like, yes, we made a film. But, that's not why you do it. That's not why you create the art.
Hey,
but yeah,
accolades and well wishing. You can't go and put down. You're not going to take the shrimp if they offer you the shrimp if you're not allergic to it. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there is some talk of developing it into something else. Very, very early talks. But we shall see.
And for people that haven't watched it, again, it's on her channel and up on YouTube, I do believe. You guys should check it out because I think it's super. There's so many layers to it, but one layer that is, I think, that everybody can really appreciate is during most places have been in lockdown for a long time, and I think that whoever you're with, whether it be a partner or a roommate or even even a cute little fluffy dog there, like whoever it is, you can appreciate some of the emotion that comes through that, and living in a tight space or living in a space with somebody for such a long period of time, being locked up and like that. I just could tell like the rawness of when you like walk over to the sink, and I could see just like that little side glance of looking at, there's the coffee thing. You're like, oh, I'm gonna go and pour it out and stuff. But just those little things, I swear that everybody's going through, and I think it's, again, super well done. And if it comes in something more, I'm excited to go and see where you guys bring it to, and also more projects. So congratulations on the success on that so far, and also excitement for possibilities of new things to come out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to get to another part where I'm going to ask you a few questions in rapid fire. So rapid fire questions, all right?
I'm terrified.
Don't be terrified. They're all for fun. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to ask you some questions in a rapid fire succession, and I want you to answer in the quickest way possible with not giving too much thought, all right? I don't want you to go and him and haw about it too much, all right? So, ladies and gentlemen, episode 44, Beyond the Beats. We're joined here with Grace Savage, and we're about to get into rapid fire. First question. Who is your current favorite solo beatboxer?
Footbox G.
Who is your current favorite tag team aside from Bird?
Spider Horse.
Who is your current favorite loop station artist?
Hobbit.
Who is your current favorite beatbox crew? And I'm going to stay outside of the Beatbox Collective because you're done shows with them. So outside of the Beatbox Collective.
Berry Wham. Is that how you say it? Berry Wham. Wham.
Berry Wham. Yes.
Berry Wham.
Have you ever thought about going back and being a dolphin trainer still?
All the time, every day.
Favorite Spice Girl, if you had to pick one?
Scary. Not Ginger.
When's the last time you watched It Takes Two by the Olsen Twins?
Too long. 20 years ago.
Favorite basketball team?
It used to be the Phoenix Suns. I'll go with the Phoenix Suns. It's not, but...
Favorite current beatbox sound?
Okay, I just learned this from Bass Ventura. The Teedle-dee hi-hat.
What would you bring someone for the first time in the UK if they were there for? Where would you bring them to eat? What's a UK standard meal that you would bring someone to eat?
Go for fish and chips. They're in the chippy.
Last but not least, what was your favorite place to perform? What was your favorite stage to perform on so far?
Oh, that's not fair. Oh, actually, Glastonbury Rum Shack in front of 500 people on a Wednesday night.
Ladies and gentlemen, rapid fire with Grace Savage. No pressure.
I survived.
You survived. A few now we're going to get into a section where I have questions from
my friend Papuni.
Has a few questions for you and some comments. First and foremost, he says, how is the experience teaching different age groups, and how does it shape the way that you teach beatboxing?
Great question. I love teaching little kids that haven't quite hit the awkward stage yet. And I reckon that awkward stage comes around pre-teens, maybe 12, 13, where people start to get self-conscious. So teaching between the ages of like 4 and 12 is amazing, because they're just like, I'm like, can you do this? And they're like, yeah. And they just go for it. The older you get, the more self-conscious people get. But so I'd say I love teaching little kids, but the more that I've started teaching, especially in lockdown, it's really made me finesse how I teach, which is quite a skill, actually. I think it's something I didn't recognize before. Being able to beatbox is one thing. Being able to teach beatboxing well is a whole other thing. Even to the point of like doing the inward snare. Belle taught me this one, saying the word clever. and then being able to describe the point of contact where your tongue is, exactly the amount of pressure, saying things like, imagine you're slurping spaghetti, or like doing a Darth Vader impression. All these little nuggets that you drop in people's brains connect with people at different points. And it's so important to be able to explain that one sound in as many ways as you possibly can, because you never know what bit's going to connect with somebody.
Well said. I always thought that was sad too. Like, I remember when I teach kids, sometimes it's something that I forget who told me this, another performer, but they're like, yeah, you ever like, they used to do this part in their show where they'd be like, all right, everybody stand up if you can dance, you know, and like junior kindergartens just stand up for everything. I can dance, I can sing, I can rap, I can go and run, I can go and play sports. But as you get older, you just see the amount of people, like everyone starts standing or whatever, and the idea is how many people at the end of it are still up, and it's the younger you go, just the people still have that confidence and they're not worried about it, they're just doing them. And that's something that I wish would follow through with more people's lives.
Yeah, but I guess that's the beauty of being beatboxers. In a way, we're still holding on to that sort of childish sort of fascination with just making sounds. Like, we get to hold on to that magic a little bit, I think.
Yeah, if I'm going to be Peter Pan Effects. That's going to be my next name. All right.
My friend Papuni
has some more questions. He wants to go and say, okay, well, I already asked you that one, so I'm not going to go into that one. He asked you,
my friend Papuni
wants to know, where do you see the beatbox community in 10 years in a perfect world?
In a perfect world, I want there to be more women, more girls beatboxing. That's sort of the main thing I'm excited about, hopefully seeing. In 10 years' time, man, I don't know. I just hope that it keeps expanding and people develop their artistry a bit more with it, I guess. Seeing like all the stuff that Reaps is doing in AI is really exciting and really sort of pushing boundaries with beatboxing. I wouldn't want to say I want to see it go mainstream, because I don't think that is like necessarily the best thing. If something goes mainstream, sometimes it ends up getting watered down. If it does, I'd hope that it keeps its sort of raw underground feel, like which is, you know, where beatboxing started. That was a really crap answer. I have no idea where it's going to be in 10 years. My mind is not capable of that. Forward thinking.
I'm sorry, I'll be a schmuck there. Another question from
my friend Papuni.
He wants to know, I'm gonna flip that over. Oh, this is one that I saved for him. He's asked some of the questions that I would ask, but I like to give it to him. He thinks that your music is amazing. This is by him. He goes, your music is amazing, and I really enjoy it. So he wants to know, what brought you into looping specifically? How did you start the interest in Loop Station?
I started looping because it was my first ever professional job at the South Bank Centre. I was still at university, so I did it as part of my module, actually. I got to go and it was called like industry module or something, so you got to go and be in the actual industry, and I did a children's show, and I had a loop station, and it was Shlomo who taught me sort of how to use the basic functions of a loop station, and from that moment I started to use it as a way to experiment with my singing voice, because I was really terrified of singing for a very long time. I would slip in little nuggets in between my beats every now and again, but I thought if I got a loop station and I laid my beats down, it would force me to sing over the top, and try and get comfortable with my voice. And then over the years, I always put it on top of a little ironing board. Over the 10 years that I've been looping, the ironing board has got bigger, and the little machines that are attached to the loop station get bigger. I've now got a loop station, an MPC, and a mixer. It's ever expanding. But yeah, it basically started from a want to sing a little bit more.
That's a good answer. I find that funny too, with like the with now that they have in GBB, you get the secondary device too, and people are using crazy different devices to go and pair it with the loop station, and guys like Inky going so far into his tech and seeing where people are pairing it. And I saw Frosty, who's been crushing it too. Like, a lot of people are just taking the secondary device and pairing it up. So it's cool to see how far people will take it. I'm excited to go and see how far, because it's like just a live production doing Beardy Man stuff and getting crazy, getting wicked crazy with it. Another question from
my friend Bapooni.
All right, he's got a question he wants to go and say. This is another one that I was going to ask you, but I left it to him. There's two parts of it. First of all, who would you like to collaborate with on a project if there were another beatboxer? Who would you like to collaborate on a beatbox project with?
Another beatboxer?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to write a song with Gene. That would be fun. I'd like to do, I think me and Kayla could do like a sick beatbox improvised comedy show. That would go down really well at like Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And we just, I don't know, just go wild and like take things from the audience and just, well, there's no structure. I basically have a bit of a fear of improvising. I always have like very rigid set routines. So I think being with someone like Kayla, who like knows a lot about improvised theatre and stuff like that, would set me loose a little bit. And just having two women being funny and beatboxing on stage in a show would be really fun.
I'd like to see that show. Kayla, if you're out there, please go and check that out. I'd love to see you guys come together on something. She's been putting out some dope stuff too recently. I saw some of the new loop stuff that she's been doing and multi-track stuff. You're killing it. Another question,
My friend Bapooni.
as a follow-up to that one, who would you like to work with outside of the beatbox world? What's an artist that you'd like to go and collaborate with for a project?
I've still, ever since I did that Banks cover back in 2016, I'm still a massive fan of her work. I'd love to collaborate with her. Also, Licky Lee, who's a similar sort of, have you heard of Licky Lee? Kind of like dark electro indie pop singer. I just love her style and I love her sound. So yeah, those are two artists off the top of my head that I'd like to collaborate with.
All right, I will check out Licky Lee after this. Will do. Another question from
my friend Bapooni. My friend Bapooni
wants to know, is there a country that you've not performed in so far that you'd love the experience of performing in?
Ooh, Canada.
Hey,
oh,
yes.
Canada. Yeah.
No doubt, eh? Like, come down here and figure it out, eh? Come on. Holy heck, gonna have yourself a show.
I just would love to. It's supposed to be the most beautiful place ever. And Sparks is there as well. So I'd obviously have to come give her a wee visit, come say hi to you and hang out. Canada's been on my list for a long time, I must admit. I just had never had the chance.
Plus, I mean, it'd give you an opportunity to go and, pick up a trophy that you won at a film festival. You know, like, it's a good excuse. You know, I'm pretty sure they should figure that out, you know?
Yeah, I'll go knock on their door and be like, oi, you lot, you owe me a trophy.
Trophy in hand. Come on. This is
my friend Bapooni. My friend Bapooni.
His last word. He usually ends off in something like this. He goes, even though we've only met briefly once, I believe, he'd like the chance in the future to meet again and chat longer. He really does enjoy your great music and wishes you the best of success. He would think it'd be a big honor if you would ever want to do another shout out for SBX as you've done in the past. And he says that he wishes you to fulfill all of your dreams, all the very best, and he hopes to see you soon one day. And that was from
my friend Bapooni
to you.
Bapooni, that's nice.
Now we get into questions for all the people that are lovely waiting here from the audience. So people have been listening in, watching in from around the world, and these are questions that they want to ask you. So this is, let me see right here. We have a bunch of questions. These are questions that were brought up by the big homie Ilya, aka Hideful. Thank you very much, homie, for running on the stream right here, the gentleman behind the stream. He's picked out some of these questions. So let me see. When you started beatboxing, what was the hardest sound for you to learn, according to yourself? What was the hardest sound for you to learn when you were learning beatboxing?
I think I'm quite a lazy beatboxer. I don't tend to learn sounds that require a lot of effort. But I think the hardest sound like to master is probably the vocal scratching. It always starts out sounding a bit like fricky, 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 yeah. But I think over the years, just from doing it loads and loads, I've got to the point where I'm pretty good at it. But that it takes quite a while to get that right.
Solid answer. And something I've seen come back. They recently did the Fire Braz and Tom, all those guys. They did the vocal scratch challenge. There's some really good ones. Another question. Hershey asks, does Grace Savage prefer a large crowd setting or a more intimate crowd setting whilst performing?
Hi, Hershey. Intimate, definitely intimate. There's a thing called So Far Sounds, which is worldwide. I've done a So Far Sounds in New York and San Francisco, but I've done loads of them in London. And it's basically performances in intimate settings, in people's living rooms, in cafes, in all sorts of places. But I've done some where there's like 100, 200 people, but the majority of the time there's probably more like 50 people in the audience. And it's quite, some artists find it horribly intimidating because you can literally see the eyeballs of all the audience. There's no like background music, there's no bar in the background. It's like dead silent, and they listen to every single word you say. Like you can hear a penny drop, which is beautiful because as a performer you don't get to experience that very often. You're normally fighting to be heard, and I've had that before and I hate it because I like to be center of attention. But I really enjoy intimate settings because you can fully connect with people.
That's interesting. I like that too. I saw one of your So Far Sounds when you were in the States. Very good. Very well done. Very well done.
Okay.
Another question from our audience. Is there a sound that you currently have heard that you really want to get?
Yeah, so in my Savage Sounds coming up next week, Kimmy Beatbox teaches me the tongue bass, or attempts to. But in the beginning of the tutorial, she says, if you can't roll your R's, then you need to go and learn roll your R's before you attempt this sound. And I can't roll my R's. As I told you, I'm lazy. I can't whistle and I can't roll my R's. But I noticed. Can
you give an attempt of what it is?
So a trick she said was to do a kick drum beforehand. So then that sort of propels it forward. It just doesn't happen. My tongue just doesn't do. I think I've got a really fat tongue.
The reason it doesn't work is because I have a fat tongue.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. Is it the no? I
think she was doing it outwards. She didn't say to do it inwards.
That is outwards. That's the I think that's more OD bass, or what Ahmed has. I'm watching him, so that's from.
Oh, they're just making me jealous now.
Well,
no.
watch next week if you guys tune in. You can learn along with Grace by Kimmy teaching. She's dope, by the way. She's been crushing stuff. I saw you guys. You guys were on the Killa Killa podcast, and you were chatting it up with him, and they were talking. You guys were talking about, or she was saying about busking and stuff. And I've seen some of her shows and crushing it. So big ups to you, Kimmy. Boom.
Yeah.
And Killa. Boom. Another question. Are you? Someone wants to know: Are you team King Kong or Team Godzilla?
Oh God, King Kong.
Fair one.
And I'm not going to give you a reason.
You don't have to. They were only asking for one. We'll try to figure that out for ourselves. Another person wants to go and say, oh, that's the same question. Well, this is a question from Ilya, Hidefield man running the stream. He wants to know personally, what beatboxer do you admire currently? What's a beatboxer that you admire?
I've been following the journey of Bass Ventura recently. And I just think he's absolutely killing it. And I really love his personality, the way he holds himself, the way he talks to his audience. I like his beatboxing style. I like his rapping. And I just think he's doing it right. He seems like a really nice guy. It's a stupid thing to say, but like, I like beatboxers whose personalities really shine through, you know? I don't really care if you're a good beatboxer or not. I care more about connecting with you as a person, and I just think he'll do well for that reason.
I agree. I love Mr. BV. BV is get yourself some clothing too. He's got all sorts of stuff going on there. He's got beanies and sweaters, and they have some cool color combinations. So go check it out. I think he's got the dad caps going. So big shout outs to Bass Ventura. It's the 999. Hey, it kills it. There's one more question if I'm not wrong, because someone just came in. Okay. Another question was, oh, that's not another question. That's just someone saying, oh, that's just Ilya saying that wasn't his question. It's a guy from Terrell DeBully. So that's Terrell DeBully's question. So sorry about that. One more person I'm going to go read right off here. Somebody called Soy Sauce wants to know, what's your favorite color?
Oh, come on. It's obvious. Orange.
People want to know. People want to know. All right. That was a question from audience. Those are questions from
my friend Papuni.
And those were questions all at once. Yeah. Get the big scary sound. Yeah. Straight up. Thanks for coming on. People can go support you by checking out your website, which is gracesavageofficial.com. They can go and buy. Are you stocked up with more? Are you more stocked up on vinyls, CDs that are available? Do you have?
I've got a lot of vinyls left.
Vinyls left. What about clothing? Are there beanies? Or are there the long tees and sweaters still in stock or no?
I've got a lot of black hoodies. No, not a lot. I've got a few black hoodies left, and then I've got a whole bunch of new merch coming in the next few weeks. So look out for that with the new logo.
Ooh, do you have any of those older yellow ones?
No, but I've got yellow coming. Yellow t-shirts, yellow beanies.
Okay. And you got stickers too, I saw.
I got stickers too.
So yeah. Okay, make sure that you go check out her website. Go check her out on Instagram, on YouTube. Instagram is __ Grace Savage, right? And then YouTube and Twitter are just Grace Savage. You can find her on Spotify. You can find her on SoundCloud, and new music coming out once again. If you guys will go and check it out on your Patreon, I do believe you can go and get that 10-second clip of the video coming out soon for Ragdoll. And yeah, more projects coming out. Is there anything else you want to say before we jump off of here that I'm missing?
No, man. It was just really nice to meet you and to have this chat. It's been really great.
I've had a good time too. Oh, this is something I always forgot. I've been starting to do since I had Nate Bomb on. Do you have any questions for me? Anything at all? You can ask me any question.
Any questions for you? Oh, do you do you see yourself doing a podcast on any other subject, in any other medium? Or do you feel like you're going to be sticking to beatboxing?
Interesting. I like beatboxing thus far because I get to talk to people like you and find out more about my peers and their journey and where they brought beatboxing to, because beatboxing is very interesting to me. But mayhaps that's an idea, because I've thoroughly enjoyed the process of the research behind it, talking about and getting an opportunity to exchange ideas. So I think possibly in the future, I could talk to other people about other things, but I think beatboxing is still going to be the forte, or at least always woven in somehow. Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I've done quite a few podcasts and had quite a few interviews or whatever, and no one has ever done as much research as you have in this interview. So I think, like, hats off to you for doing that. And I think you would be sick at just interviewing artists in general of any genre if it's something you wanted to do. I just think you'd be great at it, because you'd be surprised how lazy journalists are and how people get things wrong all the time. And the fact that you put that much time and effort into researching beatbox's sort of story and history, and that you clearly seem to care, goes a long way and makes a difference. So I'd like to see you interviewing anyone, not just beatboxers. But that wasn't a question.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, though. A comment's fine, too. But the reason it's aside from I think it's interesting and I think that you guys matter, it's because there's, I don't know, I just can't, it blows my mind to see how someone on the totally different from me, from a totally different country, can go and have similar experiences, share similar experiences, whether you know about it or not. And also, I think it's super interesting because beatboxing, although it is ever expanding, we're still a relatively small community in the big scheme of things. So it's nice to know that people are out there are dealing with similar problems and pushing through those things. So I love to go and see it expand. And you're important. People like you are important. Everybody that's been on this podcast are important to me. Yeah.
Got that finger point. You're serious when you point your finger.
That's right. That's right.
I do have another question, actually.
I have another answer. Let's see if they match.
How long is your hair?
How long's my hair? Holy Lord, it's as long as it's been since high school. Like I got.
Can I see you with your hat off? Yeah, look at that. Now, is that a lockdown haircut? Have you cut that yourself?
I believe it's a lack of a haircut, actually.
Oh, okay. Have you been growing that since lockdown?
Well, I missed out. When they were gonna go and have the lockdown. They gave like a slight notice, and I was doing stuff, and they're like, "Oh, the barbers are locked down." So I'm like, shoot. So I didn't have a haircut for like 2 weeks before lockdown. This has been a full year from shaved head. I usually have a shaved head, and it's grown all the way to yeah, it's.
So it's grown from a shaved head to that in a year.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's coming along. Yeah, I think.
Are you going to keep it?
Well, I don't know if people like it.
Well, say it in the comments. We'll find out. I like it. I like the long hair.
Why, thank you. I've got some people that said it looks good. I used to have long hair back in high school. Like I went from long hair. I had like shaved head, long hair, and then shaved head. And now I got long hair again. And I guess, it's pretty good.
It would be a shame to waste all that. It takes a long time to grow your hair. I feel like you shouldn't just go and shave it all off again.
No, I'll do something with it. I was looking into some stuff you can do with your hair for good reasons too.
Pigtails, top knot.
Yeah, maybe I'll learn how to like get it, like Viking braided or something,
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the progression of your hair.
Progression, yes. I wonder if I'm pretty much growing the hockey flow for Canadians. You've got the hockey flow. You can flow as you're skating.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for the questions back. I'm really glad that you came on. And before we jump off again, I know you already did a little bit, but people have been asking throughout this whole program, is there any chance you do just a tiny bit more beatboxing for us? Because people want to hear it. Do you have it in you right now? Has the cider inspired you? Do you have it in you?
The cider has inspired me. I've got through, can I just say, this is a Henry Weston cider, which is, hang on, it's 8.2%. It's not just like a cheeky beer.
So you should be loose. You should be ready.
I'm loose. I'm feeling loose. Okay, fine. What shall I do? How about this? I could do it like a.
Fired up like that. Coming at you, coming at you. Yeah. I can't wait for live shows to come back. I can't wait for you to have the opportunity to perform. I'm looking forward to new music. I'm looking forward to new projects you're doing. And if I was a fan before, I'm a much bigger one now. And I'm very happy to see your progress and excited to see where you will take our art form, and you represent us very well. And overall, keep slapping it up. Keep mashing it up. Grace Savage, everybody. Make some noise. That being said, Beyond the Beats, episode 44. I'm your boy, Scott Jackson, with some long hair, coming at you live and direct, as I say too many times. But this has been with Grace Savage from the UK. Make sure that you go check her out, support her music, go and subscribe, Patreon, and look it up. There's some amazing EPs that you can go and buy. There's amazing music that you can listen to. And overall, just keep crushing it out there. You guys stay safe. Practice up your beatboxing. Tune into her YouTube channel, and you can learn some new things as well, new sounds. Kimmy will be on there up next with her for Savage Sounds. More to come with that as well. So music, projects, all sorts of stuff coming out. Grace Savage. Thank you for coming on once again. Scott Jackson signing out with Swissbeatbox. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be having the SBX Kickback quarterfinal reveals with our judges live right in the morning. And yeah, closing in on 4 million subscribers on Swissbeatbox. So tell your friends, family to go and subscribe, not only to Swissbeatbox, but to Great Savage. Let's get those numbers up, people. Let's do it. That being said, stay safe, stay happy, keep beatboxing. And that's time.